Good afternoon, and welcome to our YouTube recording for October. This morning we have a number of guests here to give you an update and fill you in on some of the projects. First, we'll have Karen Snyder. She's going to do an update with the COVID funding and some of the projects. Second, we'll have Charles Washakie, the Eastern Shoshone Housing Director. He's going to talk about projects and some grants. Thirdly, we'll have David Meyers, who will give you a COVID update. And lastly, John Washakie, myself, I'll do the 150th anniversary of Yellowstone Park and the activities that I've been involved in.
Good afternoon. Most of you know me. Those that don't, I'm Karen Snyder, and I'm currently the COVID Coordinator for the Eastern Shoshone Tribe. I'm here today to provide you some updates on some of the projects that I've been currently working on. First and foremost, the COVID vaccine incentive, that has been extended through the end of this year. So that is available to people through December 31st, 2022. I'll talk a little bit about some of the variables. We had the form up and running, and it quit working about July. So there was not an online application. A new online application has been created, and it's called the Extended 2022 Vaccine Incentive. The reason I thought it was important to extend this is because the babies 6 months and older, hadn't really had an opportunity because their vaccine just became available to them. So I thought it was a good opportunity to extend it for a few more months and giving some of those smaller children the opportunity to apply for those incentive funds. Once again, it's only for new applicants. If you've already received the $500, you're not eligible for it again, and we're not providing any additional funds for booster shots. So that's one of the first projects that I've been working on. Second is I am overseeing a ramp construction project. I received a list from Elderly Assistance, and there were about 40 names of tribal members that need ramps, handicap ramps. So I was able to get funding from the BIA through HIP funding, and that's going to be used. We have a project going right now, and it's to build 16 new ramps. We had to do somewhat of an assessment to decide the neediest of the needy. That's part of the criteria for using HIP funds. So we went through the list, and we identified 16 names of tribal member homes that either lacked mobility or they were a lot older, and then their current condition of their ramp was in pretty bad shape. So that's the criteria that we used. We do know that there's about 25 more people that are in need of ramps, and I'll continue to work on funding to get those done. The next thing is I'm continuing to work with Tribal Health and development of that Tribal Health complex that you see along Highway 287. You would probably, Dave Meyers at some point, our Tribal Health staff will provide an update on where that construction is, but it's developing that whole complex, and so Tribal Health staff will ultimately move to that location. So that's going to be something to look forward to in our community. One of the bigger projects that I'm working on right now is the renovation of the Rocky Mountain Hall. That project initially was slated just to do new ductwork to install air conditioning units. Well, as we started looking at the hall in general, we discovered asbestos throughout the building. So that completely threw a whole different project into the renovation of the Rocky Mountain Hall. So as of right now, all of the asbestos has been removed. We're now pouring pads for those new air conditioning units. There's going to be 2 on the east side, 2 on the west side. That's going to help keep our building a lot cooler. But we had to rip all of the new tile, the bathrooms are all under construction. We lost the trophy case in the hallway. Unfortunately, the tile that was underneath that had asbestos. And there's lots of renovation to the current Buffalo room. The counter had asbestos, the lights above the counter had asbestos, so that's really a much bigger project. So that's some of the stuff that's ongoing. What we do know is that it's going to be a multi-year project. This year, we're gonna work really hard to make sure that we get the tile installed in the hallway and those bathrooms put back together. And so hopefully, by the beginning of next year, the hall, at least as far as the gym and the hallway and the lobby, are gonna be available to the public. The kitchen is a little bit longer project because it's a matter of getting in new stoves, new stainless steel countertops, whatever else it is that we need to better serve our community. That there's gonna be a little bit longer project in that. And then one of the big obstacles, and I think most of you know this by now, is getting materials. It's been an obstacle since COVID, the onset of COVID, is getting building materials here. So, but that's the goal, is by January, that hall could be open for public use. And then I think in the second year, we're gonna address the gym to try to do something with that floor. There was a new floor installed and there's already been water damage to it. So I'm working on that project. That should be our year 2 project, and then year 3 possibly will be new sidewalks and new asphalt out in the parking lot. So that's the goal, is that we have a nice new facility that we can all utilize and enjoy as it was originally intended as a community center. A couple of the other projects that I'm currently working on is installation of roofs from some of our tribal buildings. We're getting a new roof on the WIC building, the 477 building. There's some work that's gonna go on with the enrollment department and the office of the Attorney General. We're doing that exterior work for right now, and we're hopeful that we get those new roofs on before the snow flies, because I know the 477 building definitely needs that new roof. And then next year, we'll start addressing some of the interior needs. We got a whole list of requests from tribal programs about things that are needed on the inside of their buildings. So that'll be next year that we start working on this. Probably the last piece of what I'm gonna provide an update today is that there's additional funds that are coming, or that the tribe is eligible for. And it's funding under the local assistance and tribal consistency. So the tribe is eligible for a piece of funding for 2022 and then 2023. Unfortunately, it's not a huge amount of money. It's just, and I'm gonna have to do some brainstorming with the Shoshone Business Council as to where they think that money should best be spent. One of the that is something that I personally would like to see some of that money going towards, is rebuilding our powwow grounds and then possibly our rodeo grounds. I think those are 2 good cultural, activities that the whole community benefits from. And so that's kind of my goal right now, is to look at infrastructure for the tribe and see how we can best utilize the remainder of our ARPA funds. That's all I have for today. Thank you.
All right, good afternoon. My name is Dave Meyers. I'm the Eastern Shoshone Tribal Health Director. Just give you a little bit of updates on the COVID-19 pandemic and where we're at this particular point in our communities. I know with events going on, things happening, Halloween activities going, it feels like COVID isn't a thing anymore, but we are still having positive cases in the community. We're sitting around, I would say about 12% as of this week, or as of last week, in case counts. So, and the only way we know those is the testing through the curative sites, and then the 2 clinics that are doing testing for anybody that's feeling any kind of symptoms, or going in for any kind of other clinical needs, and some of them are getting tested. So that's how we're determining the positivity in our communities. So, it definitely still is an issue out there. So as you get involved in these activities and programs are kicking up their activities, just be aware of that, and just be aware of your surroundings. And we still have the mandate in place in our communities, mask indoors in large events, and then 50% capacity in buildings. So just kind of keep those things in mind as you're out there, try to stay safe. Schools are still following these mandates. And do the best you can with it. I mean, there's no real rhyme or reason as to why you become positive. It can happen just, anytime. So some updates on the positivity. If you do find yourself positive through testing, there is no really quarantine isolation orders that are being put out as of right now. You basically, like you would with any other flu or anything like that, if you come up positive, seek your provider for further information on what to do, and they'll give you the information on what to do, whether you still need to be isolated for 5 days or quarantined for 5 days. That's about where we're at right now as far as positive cases. Just seek out your provider and then get some of the information from your provider, whether you need a doctor's note or anything like that. Now that's going to be pretty, information is going to be pretty much up to date with most clinics across, wherever you go, but with the clinics we have here in Reservation, Wind River Cares, and IHS, they're probably going to give you more information on what to do as a positive case than, say, if you have your provider in Lander or Riverton. So just kind of keep that in mind too. Curative sites are still up. You're probably seeing them at the casinos. They'll still be available until further notice. We did put up a thing on the last YouTube that the curative sites may not be there coming down the road, but it looks like they'll still be available probably throughout the rest of this year. So that's a good that you're able to test when you need to at the curative sites. Best advice for that is, if you're having gatherings or events, it doesn't hurt to stop by those sites. I think the curative sites are not needing any kind of reason to test you, from my understanding. But if you're trying to get that from your provider, you're probably going to run into, you may not be able to get tested with your provider like you would be at the curative site. So keep that in mind. If you are feeling, those symptoms, you can definitely test. Keep in mind, flu is predicted to be pretty bad this year, so getting your flu shot would be optimal, along with booster shots. Booster shots are available for all ages now. You might keep your eye open for, we might be trying to do some drive-through flu shots and booster sites in the community. Those are in discussion, so just kind of be aware of some of that. We are working with the schools to do some of those flu and booster shots too as well, helping out both clinics, not necessarily coming through our program, but working with the clinics to provide support for that. As far as our site, I'll be looking towards doing some informational meetings to provide community information on, what we're actually working on and what we're doing and what we're projected to have completed, hopefully by next summer. So just kind of keep your ear open for that and your eyes open for that. Other than that, that's about all I got as far as updates.
Good afternoon. My name is Charles Washakie. I'm the Executive Director for Eastern Shoshone Housing Authority. Today I'm here to give an update on our projects, our grants. The Housing Authority has a total of 9 grants. We have IBCG competitive grant is 2020, and that grant consists of 21 low rental units on Shipton Lane. That money has to be spent before 2025, and so we were in a bind with the pandemic, so we went and ordered some modulars and some SIP houses. They call them SIP houses, and they're prefabbed and the walls locked together. But those homes are better built than modulars, but they're all low rental. And also, it's kind of a lengthy project, because in the beginning we were going to contract it out, but I decided I would like to keep the money here, and so we hired our own crews, local contractors, and so we're trying to keep the money in the community instead of hiring somebody in Wisconsin or Michigan to come and do this project. So the crews you see around and everything, I have a 10-man crew down there. They're pretty much doing everything. But I'm always looking for workers. You know, anybody that needs a job, I need laborers, I need carpenters. Anything we can get out there, you guys, and we're advertising for an engineer for our next project is IBCG Competitive 2021. That one will consist of 15 home ownership, and they're located down, we call it Trout Creek East. It's on the south, east side of the Trout Creek housing. And we have 32 acres down there that we've leased from the tribe, and we're turning that into home ownership. And what I'm trying to do is keep the rent down, the house payments down, and those people own them homes in 15 years, but we need applicants for those. And the type of people that we're looking for in the community is you have to have long job longevity, prove that you can make this payment. And we want to keep building. Our motto at the housing is we want to keep building home ownership. We're trying to get out of low rentals, and we're moving into home ownership for our tribal members. The way I see it, our tribal communities, our tribal members should own their own home instead of renting their own home. We have some 5 generations raised in one unit, and it's a rental unit. They'll never own it. And so, you know, I figured, well, we need to get into home ownership. So we're moving into home ownership. And now that grant is expiring in 2025. We had delivered $620,000 from the housing program for that grant to receive that. We have 2 competitive grants. We're only 4 tribal housing departments that ever got 2 competitive grants. We were lucky, but we're always looking at these grants, going after these grants. I have ARP grant for $1,023,000, and that has to be spent by the end of this year. I have an ARP grant for $1,035,000. That one has to be spent by March 23. I have ICBG 2021 rehab. That's, if you understand about the IBCG grants, 66% of that grant has to go into low rental, and the rest of it can go out to like our elderly, our mutual help owners. We can assist them with like insurance, metal roof, exterior doors, exterior windows, a furnace. You know, we can assist those homeowners with that way. And so in the last, since 2015, we've been getting the IBCG grants out, and we serviced over 116 people, homeowners and elders, with metal roofs, whatever they needed. And so we keep that up, you know. We're looking at, you look at our low rentals now, we've rehabbed all of them but 15. And so this year we'll be rehabbing them last 15. We put new siding, new metal roofs, rehab the inside. We're going with tankless hot water heaters. We're taking all them old hot water heaters out, and we're going tankless. And it's an energy save tankless, and we did Energy Star refrigerators, stoves, everything in all our units, and that's what we're putting in all our new units. And so I got, we're submitting 2 other grants, an IBCG grant for 2023 and 2022. We have a COC grant that we're submitting for rehab for elders and mutual help owners. It could be any kind of homeowner with that one. And also we're working with the VA on homes for our veterans. Most of our veterans out here are living in low rentals, or they're staying home with mom and pop. So we figured we finally got an MOU with the VA, and we're gonna start building homes for them. And also, we're working with the USDA on some of our infrastructure and everything that we have, so we can spread that money out. Because of the pandemic, we were in the Shipton project, we were to build 24, but with the pandemic, prices have reached almost maximum of 3 times. We've only been able to build 21. And so we're looking at that, and First Tribal Lending is coming in, or 15 homeownership on scattered sites. We're planning that for 2024. First Tribal Lending is gonna come in, the housing will be the mortgage holder. They're gonna give us the money, we're gonna build these homes, and those people that we select for that, they will come in and make their house payments here. We will make a one-time payment to them monthly, back to First Tribal Lending. In 5 years, those people have to be, get their credit rating up and assume that loan. And so we can take that money that we get back from First Tribal Lending, and we keep building homes out on home sites or wherever you want to put them. But, you know, we have a lot of things going on over there, and I got a small staff. Everybody's doing 3, 4 different projects. And, you know, we've been advertising. We're not getting any of our people interested. We're gonna have to go outside and hire people. And I didn't wanna do that. I wanted to hire our own tribal members. But they're not coming in doing the application. I can't get people in there. So, you know, if you have any questions, you can come and see me, and we can talk about any of these grants, anything. I had the ERA project. We spent $3.2 million on that project. I have the HAF project. We was only allocated $1,181,000, and I'm gonna have Hope and Gilbert talk to you guys about that. Let you that information out. I won't do it myself. So. But yeah, come and see us at the housing. We have a lot of things going on, and see if you're eligible for any assistance, you know. If you don't come in and visit with us, we won't know. Thank you.
Good morning. My name is Hope White with the Eastern Shoshone Housing Authority. I'm the Deputy Executive Director and oversaw the Emergency Rental Assistance Program with the Housing Authority. The 2 ladies with me is Johnna, Hebah, and Tessa, Pierre. They're both our Era 1 intake specialists that was with us from the very beginning of the program, and they did an amazing job assisting all the families that came and received assistance with the Era 1 program. I just wanted to give a brief update that with the emergency rental assistance, ESHA received $1.8 million, which we're able to assist just over 500 families with that funding, which came from the U.S. Treasury. Currently, the program has now ended as of September 30th, 2022. So currently, there's no more funding. We still are having the current participants of the program come in, and I'll let the girls explain that process. But currently, right now, ESHA is done with the Emergency Rental Assistance Program. We're no longer accepting applications as the funding has ran out, and we're done with it again as of September 30th of this year. Currently, we are not foreseeing future emergency rental assistance funding as of right now. But if we do receive more rental assistance funding, then we'll do the notice again, kind of how we ran through with the Era 1 assistance funding. But we started the program in May of 2021, so it ran just about a year, but like I said, it's through the U.S. Treasury program, and ESHA does have the HAF program that Gibby Ritchie will go ahead and talk about. But again, I want to reiterate that the program has ended, and we truly want to thank all of our participants and applicants that have been a part of the program, and the landlords and everybody that it took to operate and run the program. But I'll turn it over to Tessa and Johnna and just let them know what they're still requiring as far as individuals that have participated in the program that need to still come in and continue their the process.
So as like Hope said, the program did end September 30th, but we still are requiring the recertification process every 3 months. And it just depends on everybody's different dates on how, like when they came in and applied, but we do still require that certain paperwork until further notice. And then completion letter will be mailed out as well to let you know that the program has ended. That way it is there for your records.
Do you have anything, Johnna? Alright, again, we wanna thank you guys so much, as it was a learning process for us, but the program has ended and we're thankful for everybody that helped us along the way. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Hello, my name is Gilbert Ritchie, Housing Services Director for the Eastern Shoshone Housing Authority, and I'm providing an update on the Homeowners Assistance Funds. We just recently submitted our implementation plan for approval by the Treasury, and they sent us feedback on what we needed to do to get access to the funding available. It was just a couple of budget items that needed to be corrected, so hopefully we'll be hearing an answer from the Treasury within the next 30 days. The tribe was allocated $1.2 million for the homeowners funds. We received a 10% allocation of those funds to assist with immediate mortgage relief and utility arrears assistance and housing expenses, and repairs for homes that were facing, or the families were facing displacement. So we did emergency type work on those homes. And so hopefully within the next 30 days or so, we'll be getting the full allocation. Right now we've been collecting information on homeowners that were needing assistance. We have about 60 applicants so far. About a third of those families have been assisted already. Once we get the full allocation, then we'll be contacting the families that have applied based on the date of application that they applied, so we'll be going down that list. You can get information on the Homeowners Assistance Funds on the ESHA website. That is currently available now. It's live. It's just been produced for us to be able to outreach to the community. And thanks.
Hello again. I'm going to talk about some of the events that I've been involved with the 150th Yellowstone anniversary. First, back in March, a virtual gathering was held here on the Wind River Indian Reservation, and it was to talk about the indigenous ways of life practiced in the Yellowstone area long before its establishment in 1872. What we had hoped was to elevate the tribal community's voice in conserving and managing Yellowstone. The second was in May of this year. Flags were hoisted over Old Faithful Inn, and they are to fly until the end of September. Then in May, the University of Wyoming hosted a symposium that brought together state and federal agencies, academics, scholars, scientists, and Native American tribes to explore the goals, successes, and shortcomings of Yellowstone National Park over the past 150 years, and to look into the future and to examine key issues the park now faces. The last one was the Wind River Intertribal Gathering, brought together tribal nations, and this was in June, federal managers, non-governmental organizations, and others to discuss conservation, current issues of importance to tribal members, and the future of consultation and collaboration on park issues. In August of this year, I was asked to represent the Shoshone tribe at the Madison campgrounds. They had set up some teepees there representing about 13 tribes. The Shoshone tribe was one of them. And I should mention here that at this time, I was not the only Shoshone person there. We had Josh Mann and his staff from the TIPO office that put on a display of various types of artifacts that had been collected in the Yellowstone area. Also, Denise Ute was there with the Sovereignty Food Group here locally that had a display of many of the herbs and plants, edible plants. And it was very interesting. She had set it up on a table there and displayed it for those that were coming by. Also, we had another group which was from the Cultural Center. That was Robin Rothgard and Diana Mitchell. And they had a display booth. In that first day that we was there, we had 450 visitors, which was quite a few for us, but I guess it's not that many for the park. At that time, they give us an opportunity for tribes to comment on their history and their association with the park. In order for the Shoshone tribe to actually do that, we had to talk about some of our past history, 20,000 years ago when we was in the Great Basin. It was very interesting because in the Great Basin, it had numerous lakes and waterways, and ancestors of the Shoshone found that the climate was cooler and wetter, and they settled around lakes or along rivers where game animals were more abundant. Then along came climate change. Climate change dried up the marshes and the lakes, and larger game animals grew scarce. These early ancestors of the Shoshone turned to hunting smaller animals and collecting and processing a variety of wild plant foods. For millennia, these family groups of 1 to 3 families managed to eke out an existence in the Great Basin. The Great Basin had at one time contained dozens of enormous lakes, the remains of which you can see today is the Great Salt Lake, Utah Lake, and Pyramid Lake. All have a high salt content and made life in the Great Basin an unrelenting quest for food, water, firewood, and materials for basic tools and utensils. The vast desert supported few large animals, so early Shoshone hunters preyed upon available small game, including rabbits, rodents, snakes, lizards, and birds. They were adept foragers and collected insects, grubs, seeds, nuts, berries, and roots. Approximately 12,000 years before present, conditions worsened in the Great Basin following a succession of droughts. Shoshone-speaking people migrated up out of the Great Basin and into the modern-day Wyoming and Idaho. The early Shoshone migrations, people began moving into the lofty mountaintops of current-day Wyoming, Montana, and Idaho. They became known as the Dukgatik, or sheep eaters. This vast region today includes Yellowstone and Teton Park, with elevations ranging from 5,000 feet to over 13,000 feet. Snow is the climatic factor. Snow depths can exceed 5 feet. For the next 11,000 years, the sheep eater culture flourished and thrived among these high alpine lakes, valleys, and giant granitic structures. Today, all that's left of their existence are their homes of lodgepole pine and moss, their sheep and fish traps, their bows rendered and straightened from bighorn sheep horns, and their artifacts are now of a bygone era. In 1872, Yellowstone became a national park. And as part of the discussion I was involved in, I found it rather ironic that we would talk about inviting tribes back to make comments on the management and conservation practices of the park. The reason for that was for 11,000 years, the sheep eaters lived in this area. When they left, it was a pristine area. In 1872, when the park became the world's first national park, the U.S. Cavalry patrolled the park to discourage tribes from hunting and gathering within the park boundaries. This continued for 32 years. And as most of you know, in 1910, the remaining sheep eaters, Mountain Shoshone, were forcibly removed by the military, United States military, and placed on either the Shoshone Indian Reservation here at Wind River or the Fort Hall Indian Reservation. It becomes rather interesting when you talk about how long we lived in the park and how we left it. And if you go back today and see it, it's really not the same. There are some other things that have came from the park that are very interesting. I think that the last remaining bison was able to find refuge in the park, and it was the first attempt in 1916 by the United States to save an endangered species. Another thing of interest that you might be interested in is that many of the bison in Yellowstone were transferred to Fort Peck, Montana to restore tribal bison population. And as you know, it continues today because we have established a bison refuge here on Wind River Indian Reservation. And it's becoming more of an interest for locals and tourists, and we hope to expand and keep a herd of buffalo that is disease-free, and at some point that we may be able to actually offer some tribal hunts for our bison herds. I think the other thing that you're probably aware of in 2021, they released the gray wolf in the return of gray wolf back to the park, and as many of us feel about wolves, we have many of those stories within the tribe that a wolf is always a main character. So after 150 years, we'll see where it goes from here, but the park is actually encouraging right now that the tribal input into conservation practices and management practices. You can get into the park free by showing your tribal ID. That's been going for a few years now, but more and more so we're able to discuss some of the things of interest to our people, like hunting the bison. I know that Josh Mann is working on that, and hopefully we'll be able to go back to what we used to do, and where we're able to take 5 buffalo from that herd and use it within our feasts and other ceremonies that we have here. So I'm looking forward to working a lot with the park and enjoying the beauty when I go there. Thank you.